Welcome to the Member Engagement Show, the podcast for association professionals, brought to you by Higher Logic. I'm your host, Kelly Whelan, and in each episode, we'll talk to guests whose expertise will help you gain new members, boost retention, and deepen member involvement, all goals that can transform your organization. I invite you to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode, and visit us at higherlogic.com/podcasts to catch the best of past episodes. Now, let's start the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Member Engagement Show. For this episode, I'm pleased to have one of Higher Logic's expert advisors, Romeo Talento, joining me to talk about SEO and some of the ways that associations and nonprofits can ensure that their organization and content gets found online. Romeo has over 15 years of digital marketing experience, and prior to joining our team, he managed membership and marketing for several associations, including the American Bar Association and the Merchant Risk Council. So, welcome to the show, Romeo. Can you tell listeners more about yourself?
Yeah, thank you. That is probably the hardest question out of this whole podcast, I believe. Where to begin? Like you said, I've been in the digital marketing realm for almost, 15 years, going on to 16 years. I started out as a web developer and I was just freelancing for a while. It was a time when websites weren't mobile friendly and they were optimized for our desktops. So as time went on, web development for me evolved into the field of marketing rather than IT. It just opened my mind in other avenues of digital engagement. So I was an email marketing specialist for a few years. I worked with automation tools. Then it opened my door in being involved in content creation and now recently social media marketing. I worked in the association world for almost 6 years. I was pretty much the sole marketer for my dedicated sections at the ABA. And with the MRC, I was their lone webmaster at the time. With the MRC, I also moved to Australia to be their region manager, and I was pretty much a one-man person representing the Asian Pacific region, which includes doing my own marketing initiatives and developing a go-to marketing plan. Also, during that time, I became involved in community management and engagement. One of my key roles was to build an APAC community out there for the MRC. And again, I had to do all the marketing mostly by myself. And I also played the role of the SEO specialist for both associations. My current position at Higher Logic is customer success advisor. Pretty much with my experience in communities and my high knowledge of digital marketing, I hope to ensure our customers get the most value of our products and ensuring that our online communities are successful.
Thank you so much for sharing. I feel like a lot of times when I talk to folks who've worked within associations, they have such a similar journey to you where, not to say there aren't larger associations, but I think there are so many where you are the one-person show at an association and you wear a lot of different hats. So as much as I know that can be stressful, I also think it's such an amazing career where you get to try so many different things. And I love that what you just described aligns with what so many of our customers and what I went through in my own career in associations. So jumping into the topic of SEO, which is what we'll be talking about mostly on today's episode, I wanted to see if we can level set for our audience. I know in my role as a content marketing manager, when I think about SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, for those who might not be familiar, I think about it as like the way that you make sure that your website and your content that you put online is found when someone searches something related to that content on Google. So it's a process by which you make sure that certain keywords are in your content, best practices are observed so that your web pages come up when people are Googling a topic similar to what you have written about. How would you describe SEO and why would you say it's important for associations?
Before anything, let me tell you how SEO played a big role in my career so our listeners can have an idea why it's very important and we'll give some sort of foundation. I built this website for a client about maybe 20 years ago, and it was beautifully crafted and it was very compelling and very robust. It was one of the best websites I ever built, and it took me about 6 months. Without thinking of SEO, I was curious and I searched my website on Google and Yahoo. I remember being so confused as my site did not reach the ranks until the third page of the search results. I mean, I really thought, okay, so what did I do wrong, and how do I get my website to be on top of the ranks? People sometimes misconcept SEO as the action of just doing a Google search and then making sure that you appear. That's just a small fraction of it. It's pretty much the process where search engines analyze your site's content to offer relevant, useful results based on what people are looking for. Your ultimate SEO goal, it's to be ranked on the first page, driving quality organic traffic to your website. SEO is considered a digital marketing standard where nowadays it can be applied on any website. So it just basically improves your website's visibility. The better visibility your website has in search results, the more likely you are going to be found and visited. So, how it works in short, search engines have these things called crawlers. Crawlers are these bots that would go into your website and they would look at information.
I often think of web crawlers as sort of mapping the internet. Like they kind of go around and discover and log new or updated content and any content on your website, following links from page to page on your website and kind of collecting information and adding it to the search engine's index so that when someone does search something, they know where to send people. So then in my mind, one of those steps that you take for SEO and making sure that your website is found in search results is just like making sure that you get indexed. And then from there, it's thinking about, well, what are people searching? Like, what are the words they're searching and what are the phrases that they're looking up? And how can we answer the questions that they have or provide information about what Google is seeing that people are looking for?
So, Google has this algorithm that changes randomly. We don't know that algorithm as it's locked in the hands of Google. So the only way we can perfect SEO is to use what is available and the data that we have. Whether your site promotes products, offers services, shares expert knowledge on a specific topic, SEO can drive traffic and increase online visibility. Today, we will be focusing on associations. Okay,
Yep.
first of all, while corporations are more focused on driving sales and marketing shares, associations prioritize membership recruitment, member engagement, advocacy, and advancing their mission. So the questions we ask ourselves, how do we find new members or potential leads? Or how would they find us? You know that saying, or if you've heard the saying before, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink it. Well, in this case, how do we know there is water to begin with?
I think that's a very fun and visual example. SEO really is like how you're leading that horse to water, but it almost also requires you to think about the question, is water what the horse was looking for in the first place? Like when you simplify it into the basic questions, it's considering who is my audience? What are they looking for online? And how do I make sure that if I have what they're looking for, I'm crafting it in a way that it's easy to find? Because optimizing your content for search is really how you make sure that your website shows up instead of a competitor or instead of even something else that's just completely irrelevant.
Associations have their competitors too. For example, there are so many legal bar associations out there, and finding them may require some uniqueness to your content. There are many associations that share the same topic and missions. Kelly, I know you worked in the association space before, right?
Yep.
I remember being in the American Bar Association and the Merchant Risk Council. I just remember being that lone web marketer, and I would be the one to steer the SEO ship. SEO for associations is a big process that requires attention to detail, strategic planning, and continuous optimization. Sometimes being in that environment, you can lack resources or just be understaffed for SEO. And some of our listeners out there may understand this because I too was on that boat.
In my own experience, when I initially started working at one of the associations I worked with, we had a really small marketing team, and there was a feeling of, well, we don't have a full-time SEO person, so we don't have to worry about that. Like, we don't have the resources for SEO, so we're just not going to do it. But that's unfortunately, that's not really true. In order for your organization to show up when someone's Googling topics related to your organization, you have to be thinking about what language you're using on your website and how that's driving search engines to find your website. So, for example, once I'd been at my association longer and took on more responsibility, I started incorporating SEO into what we were doing. And when we were doing keyword research at one point, we learned that one of the terms we used internally related to the work that our members were doing was not the same as the term that members used when they were searching for resources about that topic. They called it something slightly different. So that meant that anytime someone Googled that phrase, they weren't finding our website or our resources on that topic because we were using a totally different word to describe that topic. I always think back to that example because I think it shows what a big impact it can have when you don't take the time to do a little keyword research and make sure that the way that you talk about things aligns with how your members talk about things so that when they search for things online, they can find you. And for associations worried about member acquisition, I think this is even more important, right? Because if your website isn't showing up in search results, then potential new members are never going to find you. The good news in all of this, in my opinion, is that there are things you can do to incorporate SEO considerations into your work that you're already doing. So, jumping off this idea, Romeo, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the steps organizations can incorporate into their day to day work to optimize their content for search engines, even if they don't have a full time SEO person?
Well, I can definitely list a few things. I remember during my time, only being that dedicated web marketer for some of the associations that I worked for. I know it's a struggle, especially when you have so many hats in the marketing role. But SEO, it's sometimes not in the cards due to results that you can't see right away, or the fact that it takes time to report. In some cases, your leadership team may not want to invest in SEO because of other priorities and budget restraints. I get it. Alas, you are not the ruler of your kingdom, aka decision maker. But there are ways around that without breaking any trust. It's just the simple tweaks that you can do. As a sole marketer on your team, my recommendation is to focus on the short, quick wins, which can lead to long term success in your marketing initiatives. We want to focus more on the high impact with the low effort SEO strategy. So, before I go on, everyone listening should know these three types of SEO before you perform any action. 1, on page SEO, 2, off page SEO, and 3, technical SEO. So on-page SEO is self-explanatory. It's the content on your web page. Off-page SEO is your off-site content that is driving to your web pages. Your social media channels are a perfect example. Content that is being referenced on another website, or people bookmarking your website. That's another example of off-page SEO. And lastly, technical SEO, your technical settings behind the scenes, your HTML code, your meta tags, your website speed performance, your content structure, and how mobile friendly your pages are. Those are the three types of SEO you will need to know. So for these short wins, let's start with something simple. This might be quite obvious, but I remember someone telling me that they didn't even think about it. Tip number 1, check to see if your web content management system, your CMS, has tools that have capabilities in SEO improvement. If you are using WordPress or Drupal, like some of the associations, there are some free widgets that can be installed into your system. I would check with your IT team or the owner of the CMS if they are available. Trust me, it would be a time saver, especially if you are the only SEO person. It can assist you in the technical SEO or even your content build.
Yeah, I'll jump in here and share that I was fortunate that one of the websites I worked on a lot was a WordPress site, and we had what's called the Yoast SEO plugin, which was really nice because it allowed us to set up metadata and evaluate how well our content and metadata and link performed for the keywords we were trying to rank for. So it literally shows you a green, orange, or red score for whether your content is hitting on the keywords you're trying to rank for. And sometimes it provides suggestions for improvement. So it's really super helpful when that's built right into the system you're using because you don't even have to exit the system where you're building your content. It just shows you right there how you're doing.
Yes. And you know what? That's something actually I will be discussing too. But you did hit that on the bot. So especially if you're going to be the only one, I do recommend it. Okay, so another simple thing that you can do, and it might be self-explanatory, and maybe some of you have been doing this, but some people do forget. It's adding alt text to your images. First off, be sure your images are no more than 1 megabyte, so it won't slow down your system. That is another key thing. But when prompted, you should put some alt text in the image. It might be one extra step, but it can help you in the long run. Google does look at accessibility. So it's important to add these things in order to have your screen reader users browse your website. I would describe the image and not just add singular words. For example, if you have a hero image or an image that has a group of people sitting in a board meeting, I wouldn't put header image or top of image or image of people. Instead, I would simply put something like ABA members talking about energy law, or MRC committee members discussing payments and fraud. Did you see what I did there? I kind of added those keywords to those images.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's what I do in my role now. For those listening who know me beyond hosting this podcast, I also do the content marketing for Higher Logic. And that is exactly what I do when I'm working on a blog post and I put graphics and images in the post. I make sure that the images include alt text that describes what they are so that for screen readers and people using screen readers, they can feel engaged with that content. And I also put in some keywords relevant to the post.
Oh, I'm so glad you get that. I think you get like 200 bonus points from me, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So moving on, let's talk about those tabs on top of your pages. When you look at your web page, you're going to look at your web browser too. So your Google Chrome or your Firefox or whatever you're using, you're going to see a tab and then you'll see some text in there. You probably don't know this, but that actually plays a crucial role in SEO. Wait, first of all, for those who are not web savvy, those are called page titles. I know sometimes these page titles are automatically mirrored to the title or header of your content based off of your CMS, but if you can, be sure to label them and make sure they are not too long. A readable page title with keywords, hint, 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 are good for crawlers to take in but that's another quick win. So when you are updating your content, preview your webpage before you publish. That's something to take a look and consider. It's something that I feel like, and I've seen it too, where it will appear on your search results too as well, because it does contribute to it.
I always think about that, especially when I'm copying a page. So if you're the person at your organization that builds web pages, like I do, you might, like me, copy existing pages that have a structure similar to what you're trying to create. And you definitely want to make sure you change the title on that tab because you could have the title from the old page that you were working off of. And that's not only going to confuse the search engines, but the people visiting the page. And honestly, that reminds me of how SEO is in part about making sure things are clear and relevant. Yes, it's a checklist of things you want to do to make sure your content shows up in search results, but so much of what you're doing also makes it easier for people to navigate and understand your content. So, by making sure that search engines and crawlers understand what your content is about and what topics it's most relevant to, you're also making sure your content is relevant to the readers of that page. So you're not doing all of this just to check a box or just to improve organic search traffic. You're also improving the quality and clarity of your content. Like if a web page title says Kelly's vacation pictures and it's actually about best practices for legal professionals, that's confusing because that's not what the user is looking at.
Exactly, Kelly. Okay, we're probably going to get to a topic that will be my personal peeve. Broken links. Google crawlers can pick up broken links and will penalize you. So this is quite obvious, but I do recommend please always test your links before you publish. And make sure that if you are linking to an external page or an internal document, such as a PDF, that it opens up in a new window. So something that some people don't know, if you leave your site, it will count as an exit from your site. Let me explain. So having a quick exit rate, if you are following, if you're doing analytics, it's not good for SEO, as Google can see it as a no-no because it's just basically Google looks at it as, okay, I'm just leaving your site, and then it's just showing that, oh, you're there for less than a minute. But it's very important to open up in a new tab. It's another quick one to just take a look. So if you have a lower exit rate, that can actually contribute to a good search result for your page to go up on the ranks.
Right, because Google's just trying to see, is this resource relevant or not to what that person searched? So if that person searched cats and then they go to your webpage and it is about cats, but you linked out to another resource about cats, so they leave your page really quickly, Google can't tell the difference between, oh, they left because they're going to go read another site versus, oh, they left because they got to that page and it wasn't actually about cats.
Remember, I mentioned that if your CMS has the SEO tools, well, sometimes they have auditing tools which can generate a broken links report. And it can give you, well, this can give you a long-term project for you to do. So you can actually go audit your website to see if there's any broken links. Another quick win, if you can ask yourself this, if I was reading your landing page, can I digest this? Does it look readable? Just looking at it, should I read it or leave the page? Think about your audience. A person that lands on your webpage has an average of 2 seconds to decide if they want to stay on your page or leave. A user will look at your page and will do a quick skim before actually reading it. If the user looks at your page and can easily read and digest, they will stay regardless if the end result ends up not being helpful. So my quick win, don't put too much and unnecessary information. Also, break your content into digestible pieces and go straight to the point. Use bullet points or utilize the white space, not to overwhelm the reader. It's a plus if you are building your content using HTML code. Use one big header or a single H1 tag. If you need to divide content with other headers, you can use the H2 HTML tag, or most content editors have heading number 2. I would use that. Even better for HTML coders, the section tag is highly recommended. And last but not least, add your keywords onto the page naturally. Yes, the recommendation is to have keywords dominate your content, but don't go overboard. I use the free tools that SEMrush offers. So if you want to check the strength of your SEO content, you can basically see if your content's right for SEO. If you have a paid subscription for SEMrush, even better, as it offers more tools.
Yeah, I use SEMrush or SEMrush and I love it. It's so helpful. I use it to do keyword research, and that includes looking up terms I think work for our audience and checking to see what the search volume is for those words and what some alternatives might be. And then I also use it to evaluate my content once I've written it. And I also check how my pages are ranking. So seeing where they're showing up in search results as like the first, second, or third result, or in some cases on the second or third page, which is less good. So it is super helpful. And most of the features of SEMrush are free. And then to your point about headers, I find that if I'm drafting content completely from scratch, not from some other piece of content like a webinar recording or a conference session recording, I actually like to outline my content first with the structure of those headers. So I literally mark in my outline what my top H1 header is going to be, and then my H2 and H3 headers. Essentially thinking about what sections I should include and how to incorporate my chosen keywords into each of those headers. So if my keyword is marketing automation, then I'm considering what questions an article about marketing automation should answer and deciding what sections to include. And then from there, I can just fill in the content into those sections. So not only does that help me make content more easy to digest, again, like we've both said, a lot of things you do to improve SEO are going to improve how easy it is for someone to navigate your content. So breaking your content into easily digestible chunks not only makes it easier for search engines to crawl it, it also makes it easier for people to read it.
Yeah, exactly. So moving on, backlinks. If you are the lone communications manager or PR manager, you may often not do this, but I highly encourage you to seek media that would write press releases to link them to your site. Whether it's for your annual conference or your education product that your association offers, it would be great if there's some sort of press or media that will cover it. When doing so, I suggest finding out their policy about placing links with UTM tracking links, if you know, you know, on their web and social publications. Sometimes people would mention your association online, but they don't link to your website. Although these mentions are great for getting your association's name out there, it would be even better if they would had backlinks on them. If this ever happens, you can politely just write to them and see, or the publisher, and see if they can link to your website. Again, you are the only person, so if you're just kind of curious, do a quick Google search and see if your association gets mentioned, and if you notice that it's not linking back, I would suggest just send a quick email, and a little thing like that can make a difference. So that's one quick win you can do if you are like that PR manager.
I've worked on press for associations that I've worked with before, and it can be as simple as just asking yourself, like, what you have that's happening that is of interest to organizations or news sites in your space, and then just making sure that you're getting those backlinks. So when you write your press release, you're having helpful links in your press release. Or you could even think about, like, when you write blogs. I know most of us will write blogs for our own site, but like think about too if there's organizations that you're friendly with or that you know your audience frequents, see if they have the opportunity to do guest blog posts, because that's a great opportunity to get a backlink too. Like, you write a guest post for another organization and make sure there are links back to your other resources. That's just a great way to raise the profile of your organization, raise your reputation with search engines, because they're seeing that you are being referenced on other reputable sites.
Speaking of writing blogs, and I don't know, Kelly, if you can relate to me on this, or maybe you do have a person, but I remember doing some blogs, and I had to end up doing the blog for MRC for when I was in Australia. So writing blogs are great for rich content for crawlers to retrieve information. So I notice in blogs, here's a quick win. I notice within the last few years that blogs or even agenda pages for an event, that a clickable table of contents or an outline, which seems to appear more on search. So my explanation on this is that a table of contents list does highlight a digestible outline for Google to crawl into. Perhaps add a small table of contents list to if you have a big blog, and have them anchored to a particular section on the blog or an internal link on your site.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if it was working with anchors, because I know I've heard from time to time that anchors that incorporate keywords can also help with SEO. So that's super cool. And I feel like in recent years, I've leaned towards shorter content mostly, but when I do have a longer piece, like when there's value in having a longer piece of content from a search optimization perspective, or just because it's a complex topic, I love the idea of incorporating a table of contents.
Yeah. Okay. Here's my last quick win. Add data to support your content. Use numbers. Consider using numbers on your titles or even on your URLs. Leverage unique data and insights specifically to your industry to establish your association as a thought leader and a primary source. Google loves websites that show data with numbers, because people are always searching for statistics and data and numbered list, or a list of top items. Here are some examples. Top 5 reasons why you should come to MRC's premier conference for payments and fraud. Or 75% of our members are shown improvement because they have taken our certification program. I don't know, Kelly, do you recall being excited or being intrigued when you saw content that had ranking lists, like Mojo's counting to the top 20 sitcoms of all time or something like that?
I mean, I absolutely feel like we've been conditioned over time on the internet for that kind of thing to like tickle your brain. I feel like I always like a list because it feels very manageable. That's probably why list style content performs well, because it kind of gives you this sense that I'm going to get 5 things out of this if I read it. I will say I'd be curious if there's research on the limitations of that. Like, I personally don't love posts that have way too big of a number. Like, if it's 100 ways you can do XYZ thing, then I tend to think, no, that's way too many. I don't need that many ways to do something. But I do think when you use it well, the reason these things resonate with people is because it does feel like you're going to get those quick wins, kind of like you've been doing on this episode. Or, like you said, they're going to get stats and data. I mean, I'm always a sucker for a benchmark report or data points that can help inform strategies. I'm always searching for reports that come out about email marketing and community engagement. So I'm not surprised that Google and other search engines prioritize that type of content.
Exactly. So, and you did bring up a good point. Yes. So the higher numbers, yeah, of course. If I do see 1,000 ways you can do this, yeah, I would probably be like, no. But no, you do bring up a good point, and that's something that I will probably recommend. So, like, what I had in mind was probably when it comes to top ranking lists, yeah, like top 10, top 5, top 8. I think they usually work. Maybe if you were, maybe the higher number would work if you use percentages and when it comes to some positive reinforcement. So yeah, that would work.
I think one of the things I love about the tips you've shared so far, just thinking back to my work in associations and even my work now, because I still work on content in my role at Higher Logic, is that you can take these tips and ideas and have them in your mental toolbox to apply to things you're already doing. Like, no one's saying you have to create totally new things or take on entirely new projects. This is more like, here's how you can optimize what you're already doing. You can sort of ask yourself when you go to make a resource for your website or a blog post, ask yourself, what keywords should this have in it? What topics is it relevant to? Could this work well in some kind of top 10 list? Could I incorporate images, and what keywords could I include in the alt text for those images? What are the headers going to be? How am I going to structure this article so it's easy to follow? It doesn't have to be a new task. It's when you're doing your current content for your website, you write down this list of things Romeo is sharing and you ask yourself, what opportunities do I have to make this piece better and make it easier for people to find?
Yeah, exactly. So that alone, that all swirls SEO. So before I can close this topic, I just really quick, I wanted to share long-term wins. So a few things for our listeners out there. One thing that you can think about too is focus on audience-focused content. Come up with audience-focused content. Try to understand your audience needs, and tailoring your message to specific audiences will increase relevance and connections to your associations. So Google does look at that. The other thing I want to talk about too is, well, not a quick win, but more of a long-term win. This, make sure you just go up and update your pages regularly. Like refreshing and updating existing content can improve performance. It does trigger Google at random times when there's a significant change to a existing website. And last and not least, don't be afraid to post about emerging topics. Being an early voice for an emerging topic can establish your association as a leader in your field. So it shows you're at the forefront of your industry trends and developments, which can attract a broader audience. So that's pretty much my tips on how to manage SEO for a team of one.
Speaking of emerging topics, I wonder if I could quickly ask your thoughts on the ways AI is changing the SEO landscape. So I know Higher Logic recently hosted a webinar with Alec Cole, who is the founder of Salt Rock SEO, and he discussed the ways SEO is changing with the expanding use of AI. So for our listeners who want to deep dive into that topic, I will include the link to the recording in the show notes. But Romeo, I know you and I both tuned into that webinar to learn more, and I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the key takeaways.
Yeah. Kelly, have you seen those small modules or those boxes that come up during your searches, and how it just gives you a brief description of what you just searched?
Yeah, like the AI summaries from like Gemini on Google and stuff. Absolutely. They're showing up all over the place now.
So yes. So let's so let me for our listeners out there who don't know it, yes, so they are called AI summaries, which you just mentioned. And lately, within the last year or so, AI summaries have been appearing more and more and more, that it just becomes a norm. In SEO, it has its opportunities and challenges, and it does take your organic search traffic in consideration. I would like to explore the pros and cons really quick. The pros of having these having AI summaries can optimize SEO processes like keyword research and content optimization, like user experience analysis, and it makes making it more efficient and effective. Cool. Also, these summaries can be super quick and can provide relevant answers and solutions, potentially improving all the overall search experience. It has been proven that it can increase visibility of websites in search results, potentially leaving more organic traffic. Notice I said potentially, and I will explain that in a minute. So those are some of the best ways to leverage the AI summaries when it comes to having SEO, because it's pretty much part of the SEO plan that Google has. Now, for the cons, the biggest thing that I personally don't like is the fact that no one is going to touch your website anymore. And here's the thing, with the rise of quote unquote zero click searches, people that search would get the answers directly from the search results without visiting a website. Zero click searches can lead to a decrease in click through rates, and users are mostly satisfied with the information provided directly from the search results, potentially reducing website traffic. So, why go to your site if Google can throw it right in your face? This leads into a rabbit hole. Like, if people are not going to go into your website, then there is that possibility of potential revenue loss and also a reduction of generated leads. This can affect associations as we depend on membership. If potential leads were to find the solutions in real time, there is that 50-50 risk that their interest in membership will be determined right there and now. So why subscribe for more if the solutions that people are searching for will directly come up on their Google search? Lastly, a lot of businesses don't like this because the high risk of plagiarism with the lack of reference to the original source. Another thing that is also changing in the SEO landscape today is that we're seeing more and more chatbots these days. When you go to a website, you are immediately greeted by a chatbot. Think of it like a glorified version of the Microsoft paperclip Clippy, if that would pop up if you're on Microsoft Word. Do you remember
Oh
that?
my God, you're
Oh my
you're
God.
the second guest who's brought up Clippy. I love
Oh
it.
my gosh. Uh,
I absolutely love
yeah,
it.
Clippy will always be a legend. For those who are listening, yes, I did mention Clippy and will always be forever in our hearts. So
Yeah, for those of our listeners, if we have any who are too young to know who Clippy is, you can go Google it. No, I'm just kidding. Clippy was a little animated paperclip that would show up in Microsoft Word to ask if you had questions or needed help. I kind of feel like now that we have AI, Clippy should come back. Like, I think Microsoft is missing out by not bringing Clippy back and making him like a little AI bot.
yep, and I hope he's back. um, so now we have those chat bots right now. So in SEO, chat bots, they do have their advantages and disadvantages. They're cost effective and we don't need a human agent anymore. The user experience in which I've learned have been great for the last few years. They can optimize your content based off of the queries that people have been asking for. It's 24/7 right there, right now. And because of that, the customer satisfaction rate has improved compared to having an in-person representative. And lastly, you can streamline web searches and eliminating waiting time. So it's quick for people to use. Of course, we have the bad and the ugly. Chatbots or any sort of AI can be repetitive and lack originality. It's not 100% accurate, and it may not give you the solution that you had in mind. So that's my 2 cents on the whole thing and as far as the landscape. But you did mention the webinar that Higher Logic hosted with Alec Cole. Fabulous webinar. And I recommend our listeners to view that webinar, as I did get some awesome insights from it. Google does not recognize content that is taken from AI, aka ChatGPT. For those who are listening, I know some of you do it, but I can tell you that Google can see bad copywriting. So I would spend time crafting and brainstorming your own copy when you get a chance, and add in your keywords. Again, the free tools will help as far as to check the strength of the copy of your SEO.
Well, that makes sense. And I think the only thing that I would add is how important it is with the advent of AI to reinforce your association's position as a go-to resource now. On a recent all staff meeting, our CEO, Rob Wanger, was sharing some statistics of the shift in people using chatbots to search for answers. And that's cool, right? I mean, like you can ask questions really conversationally and get direct answers from a chatbot, which saves a lot of time. But that's starting to divert a large quantity of search traffic away from traditional search engines, which could, and actually I think it already is, leading to a decrease in organic search traffic. I mean, I've seen some articles that talk about how it's not all bad, that the traffic that remains is what's called higher intent traffic, as in those are like more specific searches where people are more likely to actually want something from your organization as opposed to asking a more generic question. But I think this is something to keep an eye on and prepare for. Honestly, this is one place an online community can really help because AI will only ever be able to regurgitate information that's already available on the internet. It can't replace, it's like what you said earlier, Romeo, about it not always having like original thought. It can't replace human ingenuity. It can only tell you things that are already on the internet. So, to that extent, associations are in kind of a perfect position to really lean into the things that they do best, which in my mind are that human connection element, that like people learning from each other, sharing expertise, sharing knowledge and tips, and that like deep expertise that associations have in their industries, because people aren't always getting into that on the broader internet. We have several case studies on our website of associations that maybe had a Facebook group or something that was public facing, like the Australian Dental Association, I think, is one of them, where they were talking about how when they had a public facing Facebook group, people didn't get into the nitty gritty of dental like tips and procedures because they didn't want to like do that in front of the public. But once they had a dedicated online community just for these dentists, they could really get into that like deep knowledge of what they all shared. And that's something that associations have that AI just can't replace. Like the conversations that members have in your online community, the way they work together to share tips and their experiences and solve like new challenges, that's irreplaceable. But it's important, I think, for associations to understand that you have to lean into that now before people are fully addicted to looking things up on chatbots and they don't even think of coming to an association for the answers. I literally just interviewed Rob about this topic for an article for ASAE and CSAE. So I will, if those blog posts are live, I'll put them in the show notes, or even when they're live, I'll add them to the show notes, but you'll definitely see us share those when they come out if you just keep an eye on our social media. So those are a couple things I just wanted to call out because I think AI is shifting things, including SEO, and it's just something to keep an eye on. Oh, but that reminded me, there's one more topic that I really wanted to ask you about because I know we've talked about it before, and that's the voice side of things. Can you jump into that quick?
Search engines now are looking at your website if it's optimized for voice. Yes, voice. We all do it. Hey Siri, or hey Alexa, and look at this, my phone just.
I was just gonna say, you're asking for trouble. You're gonna make your phone answer you.
Exactly. You basically ask the question, tell me more about online communities and tell me how it works. Like you said, I literally just asked my phone to give me information. And then an AI voice literally tells me the information that I need. That structure of content and clean code that I mentioned earlier play a crucial role in this, as Google will know what is readable and will be able to digest for AI to talk back to you. Isn't that scary? Yeah, again, Google will recognize if voice is being used, and it gives you kudos to boost your rankings in search.
That's super fascinating. And I feel like that's why I've seen some articles reference how it can be really helpful, especially for both voice and for AI summaries, if you frame your content to answer the questions that people are most likely to be asking on either in a search engine or via voice or via an AI chatbot, because it'll be easier for those different platforms to return your results instead of somebody else's because you're already structured to answer the question. I think the thing that SEO folks and content marketing folks like me worry about there is you don't really get the attribution. If someone reads an AI summary or gets a voice answer, then they're not clicking the link to learn more from your article and you're not getting the traffic. But I don't think that means SEO is dead, right? You're always going to have the quick questions people ask of Google or now an AI chatbot versus people who are looking for a more in-depth resource or a deep dive. Sometimes I just want to be reminded of a grammar rule that I forgot so I can correct my writing. And sometimes I want to really learn a new skill. And I'm still going to click through to an extensive resource to read more. For example, I actually have an article up on my screen right now that I'm planning to put in the show notes. That's an SEMrush blog that lists a checklist of SEO tasks to optimize your web content. That is the type of thing like I'd bookmark and I would always like search and pull back up. And as you'd expect from an SEO expert website, they've got their headers, they've got their numbered list, the whole enchilada, everything we talked about today. But again, I don't think SEO is dead. I feel like organizations still need to be making sure their resources come up in search results. It just might mean that there's a shift in the types of content we prioritize and an adjustment in our expectations, I guess. Less search traffic might just become the new normal. But in my mind, if that's happening to everyone, that's potentially less concerning because it's hitting everyone. And hopefully, the articles and studies that are suggesting that it's going to be higher intent traffic are right. I think with AI, we're just going to be watching a little more closely for a while, knowing that things are changing right now and seeing where they go. But anyway, coming back to you, Romeo, before we wrap things up, I wanted to see if you have any final thoughts that you want to share with our listeners.
I would say consider SEO as part of your daily task and implement that into your best practices. Don't be afraid of change. I know you mentioned that, Kelly, as far as SEO is changing. As SEO changes so rapidly, that gives you the opportunity to think differently on how digital marketing is evolving. And lastly, don't be afraid to take risk and experiment in adding SEO to your content writing. A little can do so much. And these quick wins that I've mentioned will guarantee you that your association marketing will go such a long way.
That is excellent advice, and I totally agree with you. You just kind of got to start out by looking for opportunities to incorporate SEO into the work you're already doing and then thoughtfully build on it from there. I just want to really thank you for coming on the show today, Romeo. I know as one of HireLogic's advisors that you have a busy schedule helping our customers, so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some tips with our listeners.
Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Well, for those tuning in, I will, as always, include a few resources in the show notes, including that deeper dive webinar with Alec Cole on SEO for 2025. And otherwise, we'll see you next time.